Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm happy to have the opportunity to rise and speak on this bill today. Off the top, of course, all proposals to help people make ends meet at this time are welcome. And it would be good to see more of these coming from the other side of the House. This is truly an emergency. As the finance critic and as a caucus, we've thought a lot about what people need. I'll touch on the long-term proposals we're putting forward in a moment. To speak to the bill at hand, absolutely, people are struggling to pay for gas. We hear all the time from people who can barely afford to go to work because gas prices are so high. In a province that has very little public transit outside of HRM, many people have no choice but to drive to work. The housing crisis has also forced many to live outside of the communities where they work. In rural areas, there's no question getting to work can eat up a large percentage of your paycheck. We also know that small business owners and others face gas-related charges for their work, such as farmers. We hear from farmers who are warning Nova Scotia will lose farms if diesel prices stay this high. That said, I think we need a different response than cutting gas taxes for the next year and a half. We have chosen to prioritize the call for immediate and direct support for households that earn less than $70,000 annually in the form of a $500 check. That $500 this summer can help pay for school supplies, can help people put groceries on the table, can help people get the gas they need to get to work. The government posted a surplus last year. We know that they are taking in more money with provincial gas taxes that could afford to provide immediate support for people. Of course, we know that $500 is not going to provide economic security. So we've put forward a number of more permanent solutions that would help build financial security. This is important because volatile and fossil fuel prices is here to stay, and supply chain disruptions are a feature of climate crisis. The climate crisis is here to stay. If we don't get out of this cycle, we will have continual crises around the cost of gas. And this is not fear-mongering, it's the truth. So as I mentioned yesterday, we have been pushing for a number of permanent solutions. One, raise income assistance rates. With rising inflation and no increases, people who depend on income assistance already faced a 5% drop in their purchasing power by this past April. 9.3% CPI is going to result in ongoing drops. We also propose to raise the minimum wage immediately to $15 an hour with a swift movement towards a living wage. As with income assistance, what minimum wage could provide is steadily and declining month over month. We've learned many things from the COVID crisis and our collective response. One is that workplaces are healthier and more productive when people don't go to work sick. So we continue to advocate for the creation of a permanent 10 paid sick days program. We continue to advocate for the institution of a permanent program of rent control. This would provide stability to renters and landlords. Resolving the housing crisis requires this stability. I also worry about payday lenders and continue to ask the government to consider legislation to rein in payday lenders and also allow credit unions to step up and provide a trusted service. People aren't able to make ends meet. We all know that. We all have the stories coming into our constituency offices, people on the street, our phone calls and emails. They can't make ends meet. Everyone's making choices. It's a struggle. And no one, I think, is able to provide all that they need. So people are not, it's not a matter of gas or groceries. It's a matter of enough groceries and a little bit of gas and trying to make it through to the end of the week. So this is a huge opportunity for payday lenders who offer a quick fix, who offer that relief, who mean that the family can put groceries on the table for the last few days of this week, and again, just try and get ready to look at the next week's needs. And of course, they have long-term disastrous consequences. The last thing that I want to focus on is the need for an economic growth plan. We need a regional economic development plan that makes sense for the province. We've been told time and time again that if we want to know what the plan is for economic growth, we just need to look at the platform. But that's not clear. And that shows a serious lack of understanding of what an economic growth plan should look like. the level of analysis that should go into it, and how it should be communicated and accounted for. The economic growth plan should be fully integrated with the climate plan, which is very late. The previous government dragged their feet on this plan, but we were told they had it mostly done. A regional and economic development plan with green transition at the core would highlight, for example, what sectors we want to focus on in terms of growth, where does Nova Scotia have an advantage, what are we going to do to leverage our potential, and how to address any gaps and areas where we want to grow our potential. We now have institutions like Invest Nova Scotia and Build Nova Scotia, and trust me, the amount of time it's going to take to reorganize those organizations, it will be a long time before we see any results from their work. We do have ministers responsible for them, but everything should be lined up, right? So like what's happening in Invest Nova Scotia, Build Nova Scotia, the MOST program, immigration, tourism, it should all be lined up in an economic development plan that talks to us about what are our goals, what are the outcomes, and what are the timelines. And we need to be able to hold government to account. A plan with specifics is good public management. With that, I will take my seat on this bill. Thank you, Madam Chair.